All right, so Alabama defeated LSU by the score of 42-28 this past Saturday, and it was Alabama's first complete game of the season on SEC and CBS's final appearance in Tuscaloosa, which is incredibly sentimental to me. I'll mention that later in this video, but I want to use this video as an opportunity. Yes, I want to dissect the game from this past weekend's, but I want to use this video as an opportunity to assess Alabama on a more macro level than a micro level. This isn't the season that Alabama fans would have wanted, but it's the season that Alabama fans needed because it reignited the passion of the football program and its fan base. For years, winning was just an expectation here in Tuscaloosa. Alabama fans went to every game just assuming that they'd be up by at least 4 touchdowns at halftime. And fans would leave at halftime and they wouldn't come back. This pissed Nick Saban off. He made statements about this several times. And that attendance issue for the second half here in Alabama became so severe that our sports marketing departments had to establish a program called Tide Loyalty Points to keep students in the game for the second half. If they stay for the second half, they gain points and can subsequently receive perks for it. But that's the level that our athletic department had to go to keep people in the stadium. Winning became expected, it became redundant, and it became repetitive. Every game you're just expected to win. And when you expect to win and you do win, you don't appreciate those wins. The appreciation declines game by game and season by season. But in the year 2023, it's been a little different because Alabama went into this year with a lot of uncertainty. Who's the starting quarterback going to be? Who's going to be the impact players? What's going to be our identity on offense? 2 new coordinators going into this season. There's just a lot of question marks, a lot of uncertainty. And oh, hey, you have the Texas Longhorns coming to town on week 2. So the combination of all of those factors can, and then when you see how it unfolds, that can give Alabama an image that's not desirable to a lot of its fans, and a lot of people were hitting the panic button early this season. Alabama's going to go 8-4, or they're going to go 9-3, and there were a lot of very close games. That Texas A&M game that Bama played in College Station, the Arkansas game on homecoming weekend here. Games a lot. The Ole Miss game was a very slow start. Even the South Florida game was very scary for a lot of Alabama fans because you go into the third and fourth quarter and you're not sure if you're going to win. Whereas, as an Alabama fan, for the past 5 years, you're conditioned to just being comfortably up by like 30, 35 points going into the fourth quarter. You're not used to having to actually battle and grit out these games and go through the process of fighting to win every weekend. That stress and that relief when you do come on top. That's what's 95% of college football teams have to go through. Alabama hasn't had to go through that in a while, but for this year, Alabama fans felt their legs dangling from the cliff. They were holding on to that one last root on the cliff, trying to hold themselves still and get back to the surface before the root breaks and they fall. They had that feeling of just hanging on by a thread so many times this season. And yet, that team continues to persevere and persevere and persevere. And you just feel the confidence of this team and the fan base continue to grow and grow and grow each and every single week. And there started to be some oxygen back in the room again. It was very tight here during the times we were playing Ole Miss and playing Arkansas. You could just feel the temperature in the room. It's very high, a lot of tension. But that Tennessee game for Alabama was what really reignited the passion here. Now that there was the attendance issue at Bryant-Denny Stadium, but there was also an atmosphere issue. Being a student here the past 2.5 years, I first transferred to Alabama from Siena College back in 2021. And my first season here was the first season after COVID. Everything was open back up, full attendance here again. And it was loud. It was one of the loudest stadiums I'd been in, but it wasn't quite what it had been in past years. And last year, especially with the home schedule that Alabama football had, the energy was just not there. And you saw venues, atmospheres like Neyland Stadium, Tiger Stadium, and the Shoe and the Big House just continue to trump Alabama, and Kyle Field and Autzen Stadium just continue to trump Alabama with its atmosphere, just being louder, more energetic. Because Alabama fans just expected victory every time they walk into Bryant-Denny Stadium, and for that reason, they didn't feel like they had to do their parts to contribute to amplifying the atmosphere as other schools did so that Alabama could secure victories because they would just take care of their business on the field as they always do. And the Texas game this year was a huge awakening for the Alabama fan base. I saw it here. Texas fans came to town and they took over. They took over bars, they took over restaurants, they took over the stadium. And Texas on the Fields took over as well. And I think that game was an eye-opener to the program and the fan base here, because it just hasn't been the same since. It was embarrassing. It was mortifying. You were just outperformed in every element of the game and fan experience by Texas. And it hurts. It stung that fan base deeper than you could imagine. But through that sting, Alabama found an identity and a renewed sense of intensity. And you've seen it ever since. That, like I mentioned before, that at Tennessee game, the noise was through the roof. The other day, at that LSU game, that was the loudest Alabama game I'd ever been to. I worked in the press box. That was the loudest Alabama game I'd ever been to. And it was phenomenal seeing the energy and the passion restored in that stadium. Sometimes it takes adversity. Sometimes it takes that feeling of your legs dangling off the cliff and just hanging on by a thread, hanging on to that one root on the hill to understand what it means to win, what it takes to win, and then subsequently appreciating that victory. Alabama needed 2023 to remember what that feels like when they were first coming up back in 2009. Now that I've talked about the fan experience and the Alabama football program overall, I want to dissect the game that took place on Saturday. Alabama on the field, they've really found what works. Those swing passes, going out on the outside edge, their speed on the edge is so tough to contain, whether it's Isaiah Bond, whether it's Jam Miller, whether it's Roydell Williams, whether it's Jalen Milroe himself, or Amari Niblack. Their speed on the edge is so hard to contain. And this is reverting back to the roots of Alabama football as well. Their defense now has an identity. And I love seeing that. They are brutal. They hit every single play. Don't even dare go 4 and 4th down against this team. That defensive front is amazing. The secondary is locked down. Alabama defense in the past couple of years, they've been soft and they'd been undisciplined. But now through the leadership of Kevin Steele, that nastiness, as he talked the talk in the offseason, that he's going to bring nastiness back to Alabama's defense, and I respect Kevin Steele because he has delivered on his word of bringing back the nastiness of the Alabama defense, and you've seen it. And that's going to continue to be a thing. And I alluded to a comparison that I never got the opportunity to make in my Alabama LSU video this past week. Alabama this year reminds me of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2020. And when I say that, I'm not insinuating that Alabama is going to win a national championship like Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl that year. But the path and their trajectory this season very much reminds me of the Buccaneers back in 2020. Hear me out. The Buccaneers, it was Tom Brady's first year in that system. Gronk was there. You had the COVID pandemic, which heavily restricted practices and meetings and all that. So Brady wasn't able to get acquainted with his coaches and players the same way he would in years without COVID. And for that reason, the Buccaneers were very clunky offensively for the first 11, 12 games of the season until they had their bye week. And then they took time to reflect and evaluate themselves, and they came out, and there was a vision afterwards, and they had momentum. They were on fire. Alabama's the same way. Just like Tampa Bay, there's a lot of uncertainty going into this season. More than Alabama had ever been used to under Nick Saban since he first became coach here. And for that reason, it was clunky first couple weeks, first half of the season. It was very clunky, figuring a lot of things out. Not a lot of certainty. You have that bye week after the Tennessee game where Alabama had gained a lot of momentum. And you saw Alabama yesterday. What did they have? Their first complete game this year. That was Saban's knocking on the team. They hadn't had a complete game yet this year. Well, they had one yesterday, and it was a coincidentally or not coincidentally, right after the bye week. So, not at all making a national championship prediction, but those bye weeks can work wonders, especially for teams that are trying to find themselves, trying to find their identity, trying to find what works. Teams that have a lot of question marks. Those questions become answers over a bye week. And I think you're seeing that with Alabama right now. So I'm curious. I think it's an amazing story. I love Jalen Milroe's leadership. I love Terrion Arnold's leadership on defense. I love how hard Dallas Turner hits. I love seeing the developments of Isaiah Bond and Jermaine Burton and Amari Niblack. It's a really fun team to watch right now. It wasn't as fun to watch a couple weeks ago, but it's a really fun team to watch now. And they're going to continue to be an interesting watch as they match up against Kentucky and Chattanooga and Auburn to finish the year. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you and the time that you took out of your day to watch the video. And if you enjoyed it, please be sure to like the video and share it, as well as subscribe to The Era. The more likes and subscribers I get on this channel, the more resources I can attain, and the more resources I can attain, the more value I can provide to you, the viewer. And that is how I show my appreciation for you for the time that you devote to watching my videos. So thank you so much, and have a great day.